Hey, everybody. It's another episode of Friday Fundamentals and the Sales Hacker Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Jacobs, and I am the founder of the Revenue Collective. Today, we're going to be talking to this week's guest, Amy Appleyard. If you remember, Friday Fundamentals is a very short, maybe 5-10 minutes, one snippet, one tactical piece of advice or information that you can use to do better in your job, whether it's about forecasting, negotiation, career pathing, etc. And we're going to talk today to Amy about kind of pipeline forecasting and accuracy and the activities that you need to drive your outcomes. Now, before we get to that, we want to thank our sponsor. That is Outreach. Outreach triples the productivity of sales teams and empowers them to drive predictable and measurable revenue growth. By prioritizing the right activities and scaling customer engagement with intelligent automation, Outreach makes customer-facing teams more effective and improves visibility into what really drives results. Hop over to outreach.io/saleshacker to see how thousands of customers, including Cloudera, Glassdoor, Pandora, and Zillow, all rely on Outreach to deliver higher revenue per sales rep. Now, let's chat with Amy. Amy, walk us through, how do you think about running a mid-market sales team and you've got a whole bunch of activities you could be measuring? How do you approach it? What are the key activities, and how does that drive forecasting accuracy?
Great. I love this question. So I think we spend a lot of time here at Carbon Black trying to figure out exactly what that success formula is, right? So as a leadership team, our responsibility is to help the reps understand if you do these 5 or 6 things, with great regularity, you will hit your bookings target. So once you've set that formula and people have committed to it, you can then start to see the deals flow in and can help figure out how to forecast it. But for us here, what we're focusing on are calls. So number of phone calls, in addition to the number of conversations that you're having. So any kind of phone call that is longer than 5 minutes, but that might be different depending on what you're selling. Then meetings set and meetings delivered. So we try to look at both because you can set appointments, but they don't necessarily always get delivered, as well as op-gen and then ultimately bookings. So we find that if we actually focus on just doing that work, making the number of calls, having the conversations, setting the meetings, making sure that you are delivering the meetings, and then building the pipeline, if you're doing each of those things, you can sort of look at your conversion rate between each and try to figure out what your formula is and how many calls you need to make in order to be able to deliver the bookings. As you are building that pipeline, one of the things that I try to focus on that helps us figure out how to forecast really accurately is how we kind of bucket the deals. So you might have in the mid-market space, you might have under 3K deals or under 2K deals that are just going to come like a run rate business that will come very frequently for you if you are keeping up with the dials and having the conversations and setting the meetings and all of that. And that you might, if you can get to where it is really predictable, you might not need to spend a ton of time forecasting those or talking about those with your manager, because you just know it's going to come because you're doing the work and you just get that business closed. But then there's probably a couple other buckets. Maybe it's like 2 to 5 or 6K, or it could be 3 to 10K, as well as the bigger deals, depending on your average deal size, maybe above 10K, maybe above 15K, where you want to have different motions to go along with them and make sure that you've got the time carved out in your day to do the research for the bigger deals, to have the longer conversations. Maybe it's a longer POC process or eval process. And having those big deals and pacing yourself, knowing you need a couple of those each quarter, or maybe a handful of the medium-sized deals each quarter, helps you not just get lost in that run rate business. So you do the activities, and then you figure out how to segment your pipeline in some way and see where you need to apply time and also ask for help. And that for us is starting to work here at Carbon Black, thinking about it in that way. It's something that I learned while at Logman. There's an incredible forecast accuracy system there, and it's something that we're implementing here at Carbon Black as well.
When you think about, are you open to sharing some of the specific numbers, maybe on a daily basis? How many calls do you expect a mid-market rep to make, and how many meetings are they trying to set, maybe either per day or per week?
Yeah, so I actually feel like right now, so I just joined this company a couple months ago, and we're trying to figure out exactly what that formula is. So we have a couple different teams. We have an SMB, which is a higher velocity team, as well as a corporate team, and we're looking for the SMB at roughly 20-30 calls a day, and for the corp about 15-20. There are some folks who insist that they're making all their phone calls on their cell phone, and that's why they're not showing up in Salesforce.
Maybe.
You can still log an activity in Salesforce, but that's a behavior that we're trying to encourage here, because I'm trying to look back historically at what has happened to see, okay, for the folks who are delivering, who are successfully hitting plan, like every month and every quarter and every year, how many phone calls did they make? And surprisingly, there is a high not surprisingly, there's a high correlation between the people who are making all the dials and who are delivering the bookings with a high level of consistency. So those are conversations that we're having here, and just trying to encourage everybody to record the information so that they can then for themselves know, are they going to make plan? And that, I think, once you kind of flip and think, oh wow, this is really going to help me understand how to hit my targets, then it becomes less of a laborious task and something where you actually want to know, like, what is my formula? You might not need to make 30 dials a day. Maybe you can do it with 5. And I would love that. Like, I am not going to beat anybody up for the number of phone calls they're making or conversations they're having if they're hitting their bookings target.
Yeah. And in no case are you asking people to do 100 dials a day. So I think 30 is a pretty reasonable request.
Yeah, definitely for the quota carriers. We also have SDR teams, and they are targeted, quite a bit higher, but that's their motion, right? And that's they are moving very quickly through the leads that our marketing team is generating. So they're probably 60, 70, 80 dials just getting through all of the leads that they have.
Yeah, but you're giving them a ton of leads, and you're on an auto dialer, so it's really kind of set up your headset, press go, and wait for people to answer the phone.
Yeah.
Awesome. So recapping, it's dial, it's sort of dials, it's connects essentially, or conversations held, meetings set, meetings held, opportunities generated, and then total pipeline. And ostensibly, you're probably looking for maybe 4 or 5x pipeline coverage relative to quota. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, I'd love for it to be a little lower, but that's about where we are right now.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Amy, thank you so much for contributing to Friday Fundamentals. You've been an outstanding guest all week on the Sales Hacker podcast, and we've loved to have you. So thanks again for your time.
Thank you.